Today's webinar on security features is going to be hosted by Alex, and I will go ahead and let Alex kick it off. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
All right. Thank you, Becky. As Becky said, my name is Alex. I'm a technical support engineer here. And I'm going to talk to you about security today. This is the agenda for today. We'll start with how does Cloudflare work. This is kind of a review or reminder about how our service works. And then we will focus on Cloudflare Security Suite with 5 separate tools, really, that you can leverage to protect your website. We'll talk about DDoS protection. We'll talk about the security level, the IP firewall, the web application firewall, and rate limiting. At the end, I will give you some tips in terms of best practices for how to use all of these tools. And we will give you some links and guidance on how to find resources in our knowledge base to find answers to commonly asked questions, as well as how to get support from our support team. And of course, as Becky said, at the end, there will be time for questions and answers. All right. So first thing is how does Cloudflare work? So as the graphic shows on the left, without Cloudflare, essentially your website is open to all kinds of traffic. This traffic will hopefully be legitimate visitors, but it can also be bots, and it can also be attackers. With Cloudflare, we sit in front of your website as a reverse proxy, and that gives us a unique position to be able to essentially protect your website by filtering the traffic that's coming through. This way we can essentially evaluate the traffic and allow visitors but block suspicious or malicious traffic at our edge. I say edge here, and in fact, I should qualify this. And 2 terms that I want to introduce here is edge and origin. So when I say edge, what I mean is essentially Cloudflare servers, and when I say origin, what I mean is your servers. So for example, if I say that a request gets blocked at the edge, this means that we blocked it with our security features and it never reached your servers. All right. So this is basically a high-level overview of our security suite. So at the base and at the bottom of this graph is DDoS protection supported by our CAST network. And this, it helps prevent against large volumetric attacks coming from different client IPs targeting your origin server. Now at the top, you will see known malicious IP and custom malicious IP. So these kind of go together. Known malicious IPs get blocked by the security level and the IP reputation tool, whereas custom malicious IPs, as in IPs that you want to tell us that we should block, are managed in our IP firewall. Requests that are malicious in nature in terms of being potentially dangerous code trying to reach your website are handled by our WAF, whereas attempts for impersonation or things like brute forcing will ideally be blocked by our rate limiting. And of course, all the good traffic will be allowed through to your origin. So throughout this presentation, I will explain all of these things. Okay. All right. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is DDoS protection, I wanted to start by basically what is a DDoS? What is a DDoS? This stands for distributed denial of service, and essentially what it means is an attack where an attacker orchestrates a large number of machines all over the world, which try to send a large amount of traffic to your origin with the ultimate goal of bringing it down. This is essentially where Cloudflare steps in, and out of the box, we will protect your website from DDoS attacks. We do this by taking the traffic, the incoming traffic, and distributing the load from all this traffic across our 116 points of presence around the world as of today, keeping the traffic away from your origin servers. Cloudflare is one of the largest DDoS protection networks in the world. Our 10 terabits per second DDoS protection Anycast network can handle any DDoS attack thrown at it. As the graphic shows, you will see that a tiny little dot is a typical DDoS attack. The orange bar is the largest, represents the largest ever DDoS attack recorded. And the big blue bar shows the capacity of our network. Okay, essentially, this is how we protect you from DDoS attacks, and this is something that you don't need to configure. You don't need to manage it in any way. Just by using Cloudflare, you get this out of the box. And so things UDP floods or floods will be mitigated by us automatically. Okay. Now there are many other types of attacks that are aimed at the application layer of your website, and these are the ones that we're going to be talking about for the rest of the presentation. And particularly, we're going to be talking about the Cloudflare tools that you, as a user and as the web administrator of your website, can actually manage and can configure to optimize your protection with Cloudflare. So the first tool out of those is the IP reputation challenge and the security level. These go together. So here's what this does. Essentially, each Cloudflare data center sees a lot of requests from a vast amount of IP addresses across the world. Now, if we see a particular IP address somewhere, anywhere in the world, hammering our data centers with strange HTTP headers or with other indicators that it may be malicious, we will assign to this IP a threat score, okay? And the threat score essentially means that that this IP is known to cause malicious or suspicious traffic. Now, you as the administrator are able to customize the sensitivity of your website towards such a threat score. And you can see in the middle the various options that we offer in terms of the security level. It is essentially off, low, medium, high, or I'm under attack. And of course, the low, if you set a low sensitivity, then we will only block requests from IPs that have a really high threat score. And if you set it to high, then we will challenge requests even if they have a very small threat score. By default, we set medium, and this is a nice middle ground between great protection and safe accessibility. And it has a very low false positive rate of about 1 in 50 million requests, so almost never, practically. Finally, at the very right, you can see the challenge duration. So what does this mean? If somebody makes a request with an IP that has a threat score, and based on your security level, we decide to challenge this request, if the user passes this challenge, they will be allowed access to your website. Now, you can set the duration for how long they will be allowed before they basically have to pass another challenge. So basically, this is how strict you want to be. And obviously, the longer you set the duration, the less strict this is. Next, I'm going to talk about the IP firewall. So the IP firewall, by the way, what you see here, this is straight out of our dashboard. This is the options that our dashboard offers you. So with our IP firewall, you can specify an IP range, a country by name, or an ASN. And an ASN is a grouping of IP ranges, essentially. Now, once you select you specify this IP range, country, or ASN, you can say whether you want to block it, whitelist it, capture it, or present a JavaScript challenge. Now, what does that look in practice like? This is what this slide shows. On the left, you can see what a block looks like, okay? So if you block somebody's IP and they try to access your website, this is the message they will see. And it will tell them that access was denied, and that's it. They have no way of accessing your website. Now, if you selected either the JavaScript challenge or the CAPTCHA, the user will eventually be able to access your website if they are a legitimate user. So on the top right, you can see the JavaScript challenge. So what this does is essentially it runs a automatic check on your visitor's browser to ensure that this is a legitimate and valid browser, and ultimately to ensure that this is an actual human that's trying to access your website and some sort of bot. So this should take only about 2 or 3 seconds. The visitor doesn't need to take any actions. You just need to wait for 2 or 3 seconds. And as soon as their browser essentially passes this check, they will be forwarded to your website and be able to access it normally. The CAPTCHA, on the other hand, will present a challenge to the visitor, which they will need to solve. Typically, it will be an extremely simple one. They will only need to check this checkbox that says "I'm not a robot," and that's it. As soon as they do that, they will be forwarded through to your website. So that's the IP firewall. Next, I will talk to you about the Web Application Firewall, or WAF for short. So what is the Web Application Firewall? So the Web Application Firewall tries to block, or is meant to block, requests that are malicious in nature. So for example, in layman's terms, this would be if a request contains dangerous code that you don't want to reach your server. Okay, so this would be requests that are trying to take advantage of some sort of vulnerability on your origin and cause you harm. So this is what the Web Application Firewall targets and tries to block. Now, on the top right, you can see the setting for turning the Web Application Firewall on and off. And you can see it's a simple on or off button. There's nothing more to it, and that's one of the great things about our WAF. It requires no hardware and no software installation from your end. You don't need to configure, you don't need to maintain it, you don't need to worry about anything like that. You just turn it on, that's it. The other great thing about having the WAF like that is that as soon as a new vulnerability is detected in the wild, we will automatically patch our WAF against that vulnerability, so that, again, you don't need to do anything. Just by having the WAF enabled, you will be protected from that zero-day vulnerability. Another great thing about our WAF, it has real-time logging. So as soon as it blocks something, 5 seconds later, literally, you can go into your Cloudflare log and see exactly what happened, who got blocked, why they got blocked, and I will show you exactly how to do that. Finally, our firewall has extremely good performance. It's very low latency. It uses the Lua programming language in Nginx, and it won't cause any performance issues, essentially. It won't cause your website to be slower or anything like that. So that's not something that you need to worry about. Now, the other thing you will see on this slide is we've enumerated essentially 3 parts of the WAF. For number 1, you will see package cloud rule set. For number 2, you will see package OWASP rule set. And for number 3, you will see custom user rule set. and I will talk to you about what each of these are. But on the left, you can already see that most of the blocks that we issue are due to Cloudflare, due to the Cloudflare rule set. About 12% is by AWASH, and 2% is by custom rules. And I should clarify here that custom rules are available only to the business and enterprise plans. So what are the Cloudflare rule sets? The Cloudflare rule sets are written and curated in-house by our Cloudflare engineers. So these are all written entirely by us. They cover vulnerabilities in common management systems as well as many e-commerce platforms. So if you go into your dashboard and you check the Cloudflare rule sets, you will see there's a few of them. There's 10 actually, and they are separated based on technologies. So for example, we have a WordPress rule set, we have a Joomla rule set, and you can choose essentially which ones are applicable to your website. We also have one rule set called Cloudflare Specials, which contains all the ones that should be enabled for all websites. As for OWASP, this is not written by us. This is not maintained by us. It's an open source project, and we provide it as is. Why do we provide it? Because it's an industry standard, and it provides a very good level of baseline security. A couple of one main consideration, I suppose, with OWASP is that it is not necessarily compatible with every web application and with every website. Now, we allow you to configure it. So we offer a sensitivity again, and you can set to high or low sensitivity. Obviously, high sensitivity means we will block more, or OWASP will block more requests, even if they seem slightly, or if they seem suspicious, so to speak. Whereas in low sensitivity, they will have to be very suspicious before it blocks them. And you can also turn it off. But I will talk about best practices in terms of OWASP in a few minutes. And finally, rate limiting, which is the last of the tools that we're going to talk about today before I go into best practices. So rate limiting, if it sounds intimidating or confusing, don't worry at all. It's actually a super simple concept. So here's how this works. You specify a few things, really 4 things mainly that you need to specify. And ultimately, what you create is a rule with which you can block, for example, you can block an IP for 1 minute or for a longer duration if this IP makes more than X amount of requests per X amount of, or Y amount of time, I suppose. So essentially, you specify a measurement period, you specify the URL that you want this rule to apply for, you say how many requests you want to allow, and you say how long you want to block somebody if they exceed this number of requests. And just to give you a real life example, to give you some intuition of when this would be useful, let's say, for example, that you have a login page. Okay, this is the simplest example I can think of. Now, if somebody tries to log into your website, let's say 3 times within 10 minutes, maybe you're okay with that. Maybe they forgot their password, they tried again, they got it wrong again. 3rd time is the charm, it worked, that's fine. But if somebody tries to log into your website 30 times within 10 minutes, well, that seems very suspicious, even though there's nothing bad necessarily about the act of trying to log in itself. When you repeat it so many times, that's a interesting and suspicious pattern. So basically, this is the kind of thing that rate limiting allows you to deal with. All right. Now, best practices. Let's see. So here on the left, we have specified a few general best practices, and I will start with the traffic app. So what is the traffic app? The traffic app, you will see it on your Cloudflare board, is where you can essentially view logs from firewall events. Okay, so we put up an example here to show you basically what this looks like and what kind of information you can glean from these logs. So you can see the ray ID of a given block. Okay, and this is a unique ID basically that we assign to every request that goes through Cloudflare. You can see the host name or the domain that this request was for. You can see why it got blocked, and you see it says type WAF. Okay, so straight away, you know this was blocked by our web application firewall. You can see the IP address of the client. You can see the country where they connected from, the user agent, and then you can see action taken where it says simulate. Before I explain that, down at the bottom, you will see it says rules triggered, and there's an option to show list. So if you click on that, you will see exactly which WAF rule blocked this request, right? Because obviously saying that the WAF blocked it is not specific enough. So if you need to know exactly what caused this block, clicking there will tell you what it was. Now, for simulate, I didn't explain this before. So essentially, we have you can configure the WAF rule to block. You can configure it to CAPTCHA, or you can configure it as simulate. And simulate will not block or will not challenge the request in any way. It will allow it through as if the WAF wasn't there, but it will log it. Okay, so why would you use this? You would use this when you're running tests. You're not sure. Maybe does enabling this this WAF rule, will this cause false positives? You don't need to guess. You can enable it in simulate mode and then check your logs and see do they get flooded with blocked requests that shouldn't get blocked. So that's how you would find out essentially. So next, another very important tip. When you are using Cloudflare, we recommend that you block non-Cloudflare IPs at your origin. Okay, so at your server, you should have a firewall that blocks requests that are not coming from Cloudflare IPs. Why is that? Because we can only filter traffic if it's coming through Cloudflare. Okay, if traffic is bypassing Cloudflare and hitting your origin directly, then this is not something that we can protect you from. And that's why we recommend that you block non-Cloudflare IPs. And this way, all your traffic will be filtered by us, and you will be able to see and manage everything just as I have explained today, essentially. Now, if you find yourself under attack, and this is another general tip, use our I am under attack mode, and also consider blocking attacking countries or ASNs with your IP firewall on Cloudflare. Finally, another general internet hygiene, I suppose, tip: only whitelist IPs that you know and trust. Okay, so if you go on your Cloudflare IP firewall and you whitelist an IP, what that means is it will not get blocked by any of our security features. So if you don't really know and trust this user that's behind this IP, they could take advantage of this whitelisting. Okay, so you should only do it for an IP that you know is valid, correct, and trusted. Now, a couple of tips in terms of the WAF, and I kind of mentioned these before, but I wanted to reiterate. So only enable rule sets that are irrelevant to your stack. So for example, if you use WordPress, you enable that. Don't enable the Joomla rule set because this is not what your tech stack looks like. And enabling it would likely cause complications or potential false positives. The exception to this rule is Cloudflare Specials. Cloudflare Specials includes rules that basically are relevant and applicable and appropriate for any website that's on Cloudflare. So yeah, that's the exception. Next thing for AWASH specifically. Yeah, test the sensitivity. As I said, we offer high or low sensitivity or even turning it off. It may not be very compatible with your website, depending on what your website looks like, depending on what kind of traffic your website attracts. And as I said earlier, you can use simulate. You can set it, so ideally you would start by setting it to high and in simulate mode, and can check your logs and see if they get filled up with blocks. And if they do, you can click into them and look into the details of these blocks and decide for yourself based on what you know, because you know your own website best. Based on what you know about your website, does this request is this legitimate? Is this normal traffic for my website, or is this actually something that's malicious? And accordingly, you can decide. You can then try low sensitivity, or even turn it off if you see that it's causing you considerable issues. Finally, don't disable the WAF. So I'm talking about the WAF in general with that one button that we saw in the end that turns it on or off. So we will never recommend to you to basically disable the WAF. It's a super important and useful and powerful security feature. So you should never disable it. If you see some false positives, or if you see it causing you some issues, we definitely recommend that you spend some time to basically tune it and basically change your settings to avoid these false positives. Of course, if you tried all the things that I mentioned here, or if you went through our knowledge base articles and you're still not finding basically how to do this, how to prevent, how to make it work perfectly for you, for your specific use case, then of course feel free to contact our support team and we will be happy to help. And with that, I have here a list of knowledge base articles that you will be able to click into. Our knowledge base is at support.cloudflare.com. We have a large number of very useful articles, so I encourage you to look through those. And finally, here you can also see how to contact us if you have other issues. Support@cloudflare.com. Make sure you send us your request from your actual account email address, and we will be very happy to help. And with that, that's everything I wanted to cover. I hope this has been useful for you, and I'll take a sip of water and I'll answer your questions.
Great, Alex. Thank you so much. I'll give you a minute to take a breather there. Thank you so much for the presentation. To everybody on the line right now, as I said before, please feel free to ask any of your questions via the chat app in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. I will moderate these so that Alex can address everything in turn. And I will give a second to let everybody process that. While you're doing that, friendly reminder to those who joined a little bit late. At the end of this presentation, you will receive these slides and a recording so that you can refer back to it easily. You want to make sure you have all of the resources that we can provide you to make you successful with your security settings, including those best resources that Alex mentioned here on the last slide, so that you have all of those links. There will also be a survey provided to you where we would greatly appreciate your feedback on content, any other webinar types of topics that you would like to see. We are happy to listen to our customers and make sure that we're meeting your needs. There will also be future webinars planned on topics like using page rules to most effectively customize your site, and other topics like crypto and security. If those are things that you'd be interested in, please fill out the survey or reply back to the invitation of this, and I will receive those responses. With that, Alex, if you are all set, we can start with some of these questions.
All right.
Fantastic. Okay, first one, on the last couple of slides there, you mentioned I'm under attack mode, and one person had a question on what exactly happens when you set that security level to I'm under attack.
All right. So what happens when you set it to I'm under attack? So when I was talking about the IP firewall, I explained what the JavaScript challenge does, and I said that it presents a 2 or 3 second check of the browser to ensure that this is a human visitor and not a robot. When you set your website to I'm under attack, essentially it presents this check to every single visitor, regardless of where they're coming from, unless they're actually whitelisted on your IP firewall. Everybody else will get this interstitial second for this interstitial page for a few seconds to ensure that they're human visitors and not a automated DDoS attack or similar.
Right. Another question here. What do I do if I still see attack traffic after configuring all of my Cloudflare security settings?
Okay, that's a good question. So if that happens, a good thing to check would be to start from your server access logs. So in your access logs, you will be able to see essentially what these requests look like that are coming through to your origin. This is actually a very useful tool for us as well to help you. So if you ever need help tuning your firewall, this is actually a very useful tool for us. Send us your access logs, and we will basically review those access logs, and we will check for patterns, etc., to basically come up with any additional recommendations, alternatives, suggestions for you to optimize your configuration and block this traffic.
Great. Next one is it looks like somebody is asking about the AWASH. So you'd mentioned the high and low sensitivity. How exactly do you choose between high and low sensitivity on the AWASH?
Okay. Yeah. So like I said, ideally you would start by setting the OWASP setting to high sensitivity. You would set it to simulate, and then you would check your logs to see what exactly is blocking. And as I explained when I was showing the traffic tab, if you click into these blocks, you can see actually the individual rules that caused the block. Okay, so for example, if you see that OWASP is blocking something and you want to tune it even further, you can actually, instead of just flipping between high and low sensitivity, you can also go into your OWASP settings and disable specific OWASP rules that are blocking the requests that you see. Okay, if you think that basically these are legitimate requests and they should be allowed through. So basically, OWASP and our WAF rules in general, all the rule sets allow you a lot of granularity to disable or enable individual rules within rule sets.
Okay, this is another great general question. One of the features for everyone's context that is available for our business plan customers and above is advanced DDoS protection.
Yeah.
Alex, can you talk a little bit about what exactly is advanced DDoS protection and how that differs from our basic level of DDoS?
Yeah, so advanced DDoS protection. So basically what that means is that if you're under an attack that is very large in size and is capable of essentially causing performance issues for other of our users, okay, so this would be a very large attack. In some cases, and this is a judgment call made by our operations team, we will have to allow through some of the attack traffic for free and pro customers. Whereas if you are on the business plan or on the enterprise plan and you get the advanced DDoS protection, it means that no matter the size of the attack, we will always stand in front of it and protect your website from it. So essentially, this is both a feature for our business and enterprise customers. It is also a protection for our free and pro customers, because obviously you wouldn't want somebody else's problem, somebody else's attack affecting your website's performance, right? So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's another one that is very technical. I have the $20 level, which is our pro plan, and it is blocking my SSH connection. What's the best way to open that up for root access?
Okay. So we only proxy HTTP traffic, so we don't proxy SSH traffic. What this means is that if you are, if you want to basically make SSH connections, you would need to do those either directly to your origin IP, or you would need to gray cloud the subdomain in question. So basically, you would need to have a subdomain called ssh.example.com, and then make sure this is gray clouded on your DNS settings. But this is kind of outside the scope of this presentation. But if the user in question continues to have issues, they should absolutely feel free to write in, and we will definitely help them.
Yes, absolutely. Our email support team would be happy to get into heavier specifics on that as well. Following up on the previous question about DDoS attacks, one customer is asking, how often do DDoS attacks happen that impacts the pro plan?
So, well, that would depend entirely on, I suppose, your website and how many enemies your website has and how many people are going to be targeting it. So this varies wildly from customer to customer.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is, so we do not typically have very granular DDoS attack metrics that we provide publicly, but I do know that generally on our network, to add some context, that DDoS attacks are getting more targeted and much larger in nature. We have, if you're curious on learning about that, feel free to check out our blog, where we've actually posted some really interesting blogs about new DDoS attack trends, I guess. Clarification for this particular question. How often do the attacks reach the level where you would allow something through to pro plan users? So I'm sorry, I misinterpreted that question, Alex. So the question was in regards to letting something through on the basic DDoS protection to somebody that's on the pro plan. I
see, I understand. Well, essentially, it never happens because we catch it before it happens, I suppose. But if the question really is how often would it happen if we didn't do that, unfortunately, I don't really have a metric for that. But it's rare. It's not often at all. So really my point being that the advanced DDoS protection would be of use for you if you expect that if you have a particular fear that you may be the target of very large volume attacks. I hope that clarifies things.
Absolutely. And I think to add some additional context from my perspective, that the answer to that question also varies wildly, not necessarily just on your site, but also where the geography of your traffic is. That is a large component into the decisions that the network needs to make, and whether or not you're in like a highly trafficked network zone. So hopefully that helps a little bit. We have just a few minutes left here, and I'll continue to let some questions roll in. Happy to do as many as we can fit in our time. There is another one here, Alex. You've mentioned about tuning your WAF settings.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to turn on and off different Cloudflare special rules?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So when you go to our web application firewall settings within Cloudflare, you will see that big button that says turn the entire WAF on or off. Then you will see the Cloudflare rule set, and this then has a option to click into it, and you will see a list of 10 sub-rule sets, so to speak. And once again, you can click into those as well, and then you will see a number of rules for each of those sub-rule sets, so to speak. And I'm referring to like the WordPress rule set, the Specials rule set, the Joomla rule set. Okay, so each of those, you can click into them and see the individual rules that they're comprised of. Once you do that, there's an option there to change each and every one of them, and every rule set has a different amount. Some of them have only 10, some of them have 100. But for each one of them, you will be able to set the rule to either block or challenge or simulate or disable, or so essentially turn it off, as explained previously. So yeah, so what that means is if in the traffic app you were seeing that one specific rule, for whatever reason, is not playing well with your web application or with your website, you absolutely are able to go into the settings and disable just that specific one and leave everything else disabled. So maximize your protection and only disable the exact thing that is causing you compatibility issues or any other confusion or issues.
That definitely helps a lot. So to everyone on the line, we have just a minute left. I think I've seen the questions stop coming in, unless there was any last one that we wanted to address in the last minute here. I'll go ahead and wrap up with Alex here and say thank you so much for everyone joining. It has been a pleasure having you, and hopefully you found some value in the Q&A and also the presentation today. If you do have follow-up, make sure to use the support channels that Alex referenced here, both available via email or through our knowledge base or through the help button in your account. Alex, I think it looks like, yep, the questions have stopped. So unless you have anything else you want to add, I think we're pretty much set here today.
Nope, that's I think I said everything I wanted to say. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope this was helpful. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.